Good morning. I'm Richard Schramm, the service coordinator, your guide to today's service. Welcome to the North Universalist Chapel Society, the North Chapel, where we aspire to be a congregation that nurtures the growth and supports the needs of its members, sustains a strong spiritual life within a loving church community, and seeks to have positive impact on the world around us. So welcome this morning. If there are any folks visiting today, if you're up to it, we'd love to have you stand and say your name and where you're from. Yeah. All right, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Roberta Williams, Sutton Spring, Michigan. Dave Williams, Sutton Spring, Michigan.
All right. Thank you for coming. If you and any other visitors would like to do it, we have a guest book in the back. We'd love to have you sign in. Chloe's here this morning to be with the children that would be going out after the child slaving. Please turn off your cell phones or anything of that makes bings or beeps or whatever. We are operating under, as you obviously know, COVID restrictions. We're trying to keep masked and social distance, and we're humming, not singing. And I want to add another thing is that everybody should have the right to hang on, keep their mask on, even during joys and concerns, because there's still a possibility of infection. So if you do decide to keep your mask on, please use the microphone so that everybody can hear you. Announcements. There are still plenty of Ukraine buttons and pins in the back. If you don't have one already and would like one, please take one and make a contribution. They'll go to the UU Service Committee, which is working with the refugees from Ukraine. There will be a Ukraine fundraiser here on June 26th at 2 o'clock with music, dance, and poetry. So hang on to that date, June 26th. Amazing Grace meet this afternoon at 1 online. If you don't have the invitation to get onto that Zoom call, please see me after the service. I'll be happy to send that to you. This summer at Star Island, July 17th to the 24th, there's a program called Building Bridges, and Leon has mentioned this. I'll just tell you what the description is. Building Bridges grants individuals the opportunity to connect with their faith and one another. Participants will leave our space with a deeper understanding of their shared UU values and a clear understanding of their personal beliefs. All are welcome. Now, Leon thought this might be an opportunity for folks in the congregation to come together and spend some time on Star Island. And if you haven't done that, it's a magical place. And if you have any interest in that, please talk to Leon as soon as you can. Please see the order of service and the North Chapel website for other announcements. Leon is doing the reflection today at the Upper Valley UU Church in Norwich. And we have, very fortunately, Reverend Paul Sawyer, the settled minister of the First Universalist Society of Hartland, who will be providing the reflection today on mercy, humanity, and hope in our society and in these times. Its title is, Oh Mercy. Paul's bio is in the order of service. What I love about his life is that he spent time as a 5th grade teacher, as a behavioral counselor for children with emotional behavioral disabilities, and as a wilderness educator, leading canoe trips, ropes courses, and team building activities. All this before becoming a minister. I think that's so cool. I don't know why it speaks to me. For our opening words today, Paul and I will read 2 poems related to the theme of his reflection, Oh Mercy. And I get to read a wonderful poem by Rumi called Cry Out in Your Weakness, which is translated and interpreted by Coleman Barks. A dragon was pulling a bear into its terrible mouth. A courageous man went and rescued the bear. There are such helpers in the world who rush to save anyone who cries out. Like mercy itself, they run toward the screaming, and they can't be bought off. If you were to ask one of those, why did you come so quickly? He or she would say, because I heard your helplessness. Where lowland is, that's where the water goes. All medicine wants is pain to cure. And don't just ask for one mercy, let them flood in. Let the sky open under your feet. Take the cotton out of your ears, the cotton of consolations, so you can hear the sphere music. Push the hair out of your eyes, blow the phlegm from your nose and from your brain. Let the wind breeze through. Leave no residue in yourself from that bilious fever. Tear the binding from around the foot of your soul and let it race around the track in front of the crowd. Loosen the knot of greed so tight on your neck. Accept your new good luck. Give your weakness to one who helps. Crying out loud and weeping are great resources. A nursing mother, all she does is wait to hear her child. Just a little beginning whimper, and she's there. God created the child, that is, your wanting, so that it might cry out, so that milk might come. Cry out, don't be stolid and silent with your pain. Lament, and let the milk of loving flow into you. The hard rain and wind are ways the cloud has to take care of us. Be patient, respond to every call that excites your spirit. Ignore those that make you fearful and sad, that degrade you back toward disease and death.
Since I first heard that poem, I can't tell you how many times I've stopped and said, I gotta blow the phlegm out of my brain. It's a very useful phrase to have with you. Thanks for having me here. It's great to share this Upper Valley Pulpit Exchange. Jan Hutzler's in Hartland. Leon, as you heard, is in Norwich, and I get to be with you. And our congregations, Hartland and Woodstock, we were founded together, so it's good to carry on this tradition whenever we can. Yusuf Komunyakaa is a poet, a professor, Vietnam veteran, and all-around remarkable soul. He was born and raised in Louisiana. He's taught all over, and he's currently a professor at New York University. He's recipient of the Pulitzer Prize for poetry and many other awards and accolades. And this poem displays he's also one of those gifted, truly gifted human beings that somehow has the ability to capture in words that which sits in our souls in a more wordless state. This poem is Rock Me Mercy, a poem written in mourning, he says, on the night of December 14, 2012, after the shooting at Standing Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. Now, I chose this poem to bring you as a reading today a couple of weeks ago. So the fact that we're gathered this morning after yet again another shooting is on our minds, a young white supremacist man chose to commit mass murder in Buffalo, New York, well, I wish I could say it's a tragic irony that these things have come out, but unfortunately, this is more of a painful reality, the fact that this poem would be so relevant on any given Sunday morning. So here are these words from Yusuf Komunyakaa. The river stones are listening today because we have something to say. The trees lean closer today. The singing in the electrical woods has gone down. It looks like rain because it is too warm to snow. Guardian angels, wherever you're hiding, we know you can't be everywhere at once. Have you corralled all the pretty wild horses? The memory of ants asleep and daylilies, roses, holly, and larkspur? The magpies gaze at us, still waiting. River stones are listening. But all we can say now is mercy. Please rock me. I welcome you into a time of meditation and reflection. Oh, mercy. Mercy, mercy me, mercy, please. Mercy, please rock me. Mercy, hold me. Mercy, come and live and work in me. That December day in 2012, we called out for mercy. Last night, we called out for mercy, and so many times before, so many times I believe to come. In any of our lifetimes in this gathering, we have not lacked for reason to call out for mercy. I don't think we're ever going to lack for occasions to do so in the future. We know somewhere in this world of ours, in every moment, voices call out for mercy. Somewhere in the depth of each of our souls, in every moment, we are calling out for mercy as well. So we have to be agents of mercy. Because because it seems that there's precious little mercy answering the endless cries of our souls and people all over. So we must be agents of mercy. We have to be defenders of mercy. And we should also be grateful recipients of mercy wherever we can find it. In terms of meaning, mercy is one of those ideas that I don't think really benefits from trying to compress it into a specific definition. It has so many different and nuanced meanings, and they all point to this larger quality of human compassion and connection that is wider than any one set of words could proclaim. But because we like such things, the standard dictionary definition of mercy is usually something like withholding pain or punishment, or relieving pain or punishment from someone over whom you have the power to punish or cause pain. And that's the heart of the kind of mercy we mean when we think about a defendant throwing themselves on the mercy of the court. Or when we say to someone in our lives who has control over some aspect of our lives that I'm at your mercy. And that's a pretty good place to start. But there's a lot more to mercy than a simple removance or avoidance of pain. It helps me, I think, a bit to realize that the French word merci, which we learn in French class as meaning simply thank you, well, it's the same exact word from the same path of language development as the English word mercy. It helps to notice here that mercy and gratitude are kin. They're both qualities of connection and appreciation. They're both acts of recognizing that another soul is not something that's set apart, completely distinct from who we are, but our souls are interdependent. Our beings, we interbe, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say. So mercy isn't just an action, it's a way of living. It's a way of being and interbeing. It's trusting, opening, caring, healing. It's a way of being that we can both live and receive, particularly in times where there is any kind of pain or disconnection or destruction. And in all its many nuances and meanings, we can understand too that in the depth of a human soul, mercy is also a simple prayer. And prayer is another one of those ideas that I don't want to get into defining. But one of the most meaningful ways I've learned to understand at least one particular aspect of prayer is that prayer is the thing we can do when there's nothing else we can do. And in that context, mercy is the prayer we can pray when we can't pray anything else. Mercy is the prayer that Yusef Komunyaka lifts up in the poetry of his words, a prayer from our unspeakable shared grief in the wake of tragic cruelty. Mercy, mercy, 1 million or more American souls and their families have prayed as they've died from COVID-19. And though he mostly used other words, mercy was the prayer that George Floyd called out, that the whole world heard him cry out as his breath His life was taken from him on a cold, hard Minneapolis street. And while George Floyd's prayers for mercy may have been answered in the next world, we don't know. In our world, we do know that mercy was denied to him, but it didn't have to be. His life was in human hands, hands that could easily have granted the mercy that he prayed for. But those hands did not let up. Which is something that I thought the prosecutor summed up painfully well during the trial of the officer Derek Chauvin, that George Floyd died because Derek Chauvin's heart was too small. Oh, mercy. We talk a lot these days and through most of our lives, in certain circles at least, about how in the United States so many of our systems feel painfully broken. Our law enforcement system is broken, we say. Our criminal justice system is broken. Our immigration system, our healthcare system, our education system, our care for our poor, our mentally ill, our seniors, and our people with disabilities of all kinds, our care for our very communities. All broken, we've learned to say. But many of us have come to understand that broken isn't really the right word for the situation in all these systems. And I learned that from an activist I heard many years ago, and unfortunately I can't remember who she was, but I will remember forever that she said, broken's a word we use to describe something that doesn't work the way it's meant to work. But these systems, even if their modern participants don't mean them to, what they do in our society is almost always what they were intended to do when they were created. Beginning from their very earliest days, they separate, they disconnect, they categorize, they remove. Some people they punish, they restrict, they subdue, they confine. And some other people they comfort, they protect, they bring satisfaction and ease. And it's that division between comfort and restriction, that's what many of our institutions were meant to do when they were created, whether that's the way we understand them or not. And even though, as I said, even though most of those who work in those systems, nearly all of the people who work in those systems now would swear on the state of their souls that that is not what they're meant to do. But with a little distance and a bit of heart, with the smallest openness to mercy, we can see otherwise. Our systems of justice, of enforcement, of care, of borders and boundaries in the United States, they're not broken. They're merciless. If there is a quality that's lacking in our governance, our leadership, in American authority and action, it's mercy. And we don't stop with human lives. We've been merciless as well in our treatment of our precious, beautiful earth, which also cries out for mercy every day, every moment, in so many different ways. In all these aspects of our life, we have it in our power not to destroy. We have it in our power to lift up, to honor, to heal. But that hasn't been the path that we've taken far too often. And I worry that, like Pharaoh of old, when people come to tell the story of our society in times to come, they will be astonished that the people and the very earth called out over and over, time and time again, for mercy, but we hardened our hearts and we did not hear. The Franciscan priest and poet Richard Rohr, he says that mercy and forgiveness are the gospel in a nutshell. And that's true. Many in the Christian world get stuck in the idea of judgment, that their faith lives in the idea that God, in the end, will grant some souls eternal life and others eternal pain, that God will separate the wheat from the chaff, the sheep from the goats. The whole mission of Jesus, including nearly everything he ever said about judgment and about division, His whole mission was about connecting and caring and opening and healing. The ministry and the prophet work of Jesus was about mercy. And I don't bring that up either to castigate or to celebrate different types of Christianity. I just bring it up because of the role that this idea played in our shared history of faith. In the days of the Calvinist, Puritan, descendered, common order churches of New England, our Universalist ancestors in faith countered the Calvinist merciless proclamations of judgment by lifting up and seeking to live the power of holy love. In our times, as in those days, we can wonder if those that are out there shouting about Christian justice ever remember what it was in the gospel account that Jesus said separated the sheep from the goats. He was, in fact, asked that question directly. And this is what he said. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, an immigrant, and you welcomed me. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you took care of me. I was in prison and you visited me. And when the account says that Jesus says those words, it says the people called back to him, Lord, when was it that we did all those things? And Jesus said, if you, just as you did to the least of these, my people, you did to me. Mercy, forgiveness, healing, and care, that's the good news of the Gospels, and thank goodness it's also the good news of common sense and plain old human decency. And I think it's important to us in our faith tradition to remember that that was the exact good news that the Universalists, the early Universalists found to be the major life-giving, soul-saving force that they could proclaim when they established our tradition of faith in the midst of a world that was all about fire and brimstone. If you've heard me or Leon or most anyone talking about foundational Universalist ideas before, you've probably heard us say something like the Universalists believed in the saving benevolence of an all-loving God. But it would be more accurate to say that Universalists founded and lived their faith on a belief in the saving power of mercy. They did believe in the saving work of a merciful God, and they believed just as strongly in the lived life of merciful people every single day, saving each other, saving ourselves with merciful love. The early Universalists believed, too, that to the depth of their souls, they believed that one day, someday, generations ahead, mercy will prevail on heaven and in heaven and on earth. They believed in the power of mercy to transform every single human soul, and so in time to transform a merciless world. In one theologian's words, the early Universalists saw themselves as defenders of mercy, which to me seems like something our world could use a fair amount of right now, defenders of mercy. This is a troubled world where our actions can feel insignificant and where the powers of disconnection and destruction are so often in control. In this space, in any space, we can remember in faith that we can be defenders of mercy, that we can be agents of mercy. We have the power to wound and to destroy, and we have the power to relieve pain, to celebrate beauty, to live in joy, to live lives of welcoming, feeding, clothing, visiting, healing each other and ourselves. All around, precious souls, including our own, we cry out in desperate prayers for mercy. We are called to hear those prayers, to honor those cries, and to live mercy all of our days. And we can do that, and we can pray for the world to be transformed when every human soul receives mercy. We can live that way no matter how merciless the world tries to become. because that's who we are. Amen.